What's going on, all you DC movie maniacs out there? Fat Samurai Guy here with Lady Fat Blood, the sexy shield maiden, that's right. And we're going to talk a little bit about Wonder Woman!
Yeah, 5 years later.
Yeah, 5 years later. Sorry we're late with this review, but things happen.
Yeah.
But a lot of you out there were still kind of curious of what we thought of the film, so we're going to give our thoughts. Go!
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Ha!
Okay, well, my perspective is I don't give a shit about Wonder Woman. I never have. I've never been the biggest fan in any incarnation. I vaguely remember catching episodes of the 70s Linda Carter show when I was a kid. I never really watched the Justice League cartoon, so I never saw her in that really. I'd only seen bits and pieces of what you would see. Character-wise, I just based on what I had heard, she just didn't really interest me.
You just lost all the audience right now. They just clicked off. I'm just kidding.
Leading up to something.
Yeah,
There's a reason.
this is a good example.
There's a reason. So I've never really had a vested interest in the character.
Right.
So when I heard she was going to be in BVS, and then of course the casting, it was like, oh my God, Gal Gadot, she's fucking, she's...
Oh, I hated that.
She's a twig.
I was like, this is fucking bullshit.
She's a this, she's a that. And so when I went to go see BVS, among its numerous problems, I thought she was going to be among them. Turns out she was not. She was not anywhere near the problem with that film. And in fact, me being the only person on the face of the planet that loves the theme music that she was given.
I like it too. I think the theme song's badass.
I thought the character, for what little she had to work with in BVS, made somewhat of an impact in the film. It was interesting seeing her with Superman and Batman fighting against Doomsday. Did I get that right?
It's bootleg Doomsday, but yeah,
bootleg sort of Doomsday, kind of Doomzod. Zod's Day. So, I felt like, she didn't have a lot to do in BVS, but she was still interesting, and I loved the music that they gave her. They gave her a couple of different beats. They gave her the main warrior theme, but they also gave her like this kind of exotic, mysterious theme when she was...
it sounds Amazonian.
Yes.
The drums.
Yes.
It's fucking badass.
And I liked her.
Everyone in the world hates it, apparently.
Because it's very odd. It's very odd.
Fucking dope.
And that's the problem. When you look at this at the grand history of women superhero films, and I would point to Supergirl being one of them, females, not only have they not had the best films themselves, but any music that they may have had, and I love Jerry Goldsmith, but his music that he gave her was a little cheesy.
And Supergirl.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was the 80s,
yeah.
And you could argue that, well, that's just how it was back then, and okay, fine. But when you think of female superheroes, you rarely think of iconic themes. Like, I would have to say that the only female comic book character that comes to my mind that's actually ever had a really interesting theme was Catwoman from 1992's Batman Returns. She had an amazingly creepy and very appropriate psychotic theme. I loved what Danny Elfman did for her character. But women don't really get, and that also is par for the course. In the 2000s we saw a big shift in music where superheroes and characters, they didn't really get their own themes anymore. Yeah. And so maybe the fact that this woman has her own superhero theme is a little off-putting because we're used to the generic background themes that superheroes get.
Yeah, but so many people out there are complaining about superheroes not having themes. And then we finally get a theme. Yeah, now they're complaining about the theme.
And everybody hates it. So then of course we hear about the production issues that the film was having. Yeah. Yes, that I think they lost one of their directors. They got a new director. You had the
problems on the set.
You had the anonymous person who got fired from Warner Brothers or whatever that was saying this movie's going to be just as much of a mess as BVS, if not worse. And you start to really hear this shit, and you're like, oh God, Warner Brothers and DC, you've done it again. You put your hands in it where you didn't need to, and you've done it again. You fucked up another franchise. And despite my not really giving a shit about her, I was really rooting for this character and this film. When I saw the trailer, something about it, something about seeing this gaggle of Amazons and this warrior female.
Warrior culture.
Yeah, it really just kind of struck a nerve with me, and it's like, I really want this to work. Despite my having no investment in the character, I wanted this to work. Mm-hmm. And then you start hearing, oh, it's great, it's this and that, but then I'm thinking, no, you got the feminist train going where you're going to be hearing all this stuff because it's like Ghostbusters. Where all the women are going, see, women can do it too. And I'm not interested in agendas. I'm not interested in pieces where you're trying to push something onto somebody because you think it makes something look better. I'm interested in the content of what you give me, not the intent of what you give me. And that was one of the things I was afraid of Wonder Woman, is that they were going to be shoving the feminists, like, women can do everything and women are amazing and da-da-da-da. I was really afraid that they were going to shove that down the throat.
Like the entire movie.
To the point where I was going to be like,
we get it.
The fuck off. Okay? Deeds and actions speak louder than your bullshit words. Show me she's a badass.
Right.
Show me she can take care of herself. Don't tell me that she can't. So, going into this movie, we were hearing the
positive things, but we never watched any reviews.
Exactly.
Or anything.
And so I was taking it with a grain of salt. And I had two big fears going into this. My first big fear was that it was going to be uber duber feminist, where for women and women, women's place, blah blah blah. No, there is no women, blah. That was my first fear. My second fear was that it was going to be too much like the first Captain America. In that Avenger. It's a period piece.
Right.
You have fish out of water tale a little bit, even though Cap wasn't really a fish out of water until the first Avengers film, but he was a character that was one thing and then was thrown into the situation where he was a completely different entity and he had to find himself. And in some ways, that's how Wonder Woman was. And boy, I gotta say, I all the way around, I was so pleasantly surprised by this film.
Yeah.
I was really sad when I found out that Junkie XL had nothing to do with the score, and then I was completely thrilled when I got to hear her fucking theme again. Fuck y'all that hate her theme. I got it back. It's in the film. You can't deny it. It exists. It's her song. I don't give a shit. Y'all hate it all you want. That is her song. And I fucking love it. What I really enjoyed about the movie was it took its time. She was
gave us some good character development.
She was pretty relatable.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't like for being a god. She wasn't like, they didn't try to make her Christ-like like they did with Superman. There was no dark and brooding.
Nope.
This almost had the tone of the original Christopher Reeve, Richard Donner Superman back in the 70s. It almost had that sense of hope, that sense of lightheartedness.
Inspiration, inspiring the soul. I mean, that whole really awesome scene where she crosses the trenches that the soldiers can't get to.
The no man's land.
The no man's land. And she crosses it, she's blocking the missiles and blocking the bullets, and then all of a sudden the soldiers are like, fuck, let's do this, man. And they start coming up from behind her with their rifles and they're fighting back. And that feeling was what I'm sorry, I can't talk.
Okay.
That feeling was what I wanted out of Man of Steel, which we didn't get. I've actually been wanting to rewatch and revisit Man of Steel, which we might maybe one day do a commentary on it or rewatch it. Just to rewatch it again, just to revisit it just for shits and giggles. But we didn't really get that. As entertaining as Man of Steel was and gave us some awesome kick-ass fight sequences in that film, the sense of joy was not there. And just when you look at Superman, when you think of even Superman, you think of hope. He says, my S stands for hope. Nobody gave a fuck about hope in that with Superman in that movie. Nobody gave a shit. No one cared. You know, they tried, but anyway, that's another review for another day or another revisit episode. So, but that's what we wanted. And we got that with this film, which I was not expecting
exactly.
at all. And I was just expecting to be entertained. I wasn't expecting this movie to be like, oh, it's the greatest superhero of all time. I just wanted to be entertained, and I was entertained.
Yes.
The action sequences were solid. The fight at the end where she fights, what's his name? Aries, god of war. When she fights him at the end, big superhero battle. I enjoyed that. I liked it. I liked her grounded fighting a lot better in terms of filming the action when she was fighting all the soldiers. I liked that a lot better. But you got to have your superhero battle. You got to have that. And for some reason, the big superhero battle between her and Ares at the end of the movie, everybody hates this. I don't know why. Everybody hates that very end finale. They hate it. Oh, it's just a light show. It's CGI mess. It's too much. And I'm kind of like, you got to bring your guns, man. When you're doing an origin story, you got to bring out your guns, your big guns, okay? Don't pull a fucking Green Lantern. And that's where they failed. Well, there's a lot of issues and flaws with Green Lantern, but not having Sinestro show up in that movie, him fight Sinestro, was a huge mistake. And there's that talk of Ares throughout the film, and he's this mysterious Ares. We'll find out she exists. Her knowing her past will bring Ares out from hiding, and he'll find her. You mean to tell me you guys weren't expecting her to face Ares at some point by the end of the movie?
Well, and that was also part of the plot, is that you find out the Amazons find out that there's this great war on the other side of where they live, because they kind of live in like this bubble, this hidden bubble that that you can't see. And the Chris Pine character, accidentally, stumbles into it, and he brings the Germans with him and all that. And so Wonder Woman, Diana, she becomes convinced that Ares has returned and has turned the hearts of men against each other. And
he's the reason for war.
And this was one of the things I really loved about the film, is her innocence. Believe it or not, she was so innocent about humanity that she thought that Ares, the legend of Ares turning men against each other, was so literal, that all she had to do was kill Ares and there would be no more war. That the war would stop, men would stop fighting, and everybody would get along. And so her driving force the entire film is, I have to find Ares and I have to kill him so that people will stop fighting. And I knew it was coming, but what I really enjoyed is that they did it. They just went there. And basically she finds out that, Ares was helping them fight, but all Ares did was just give them the tools. And they did it, and they just did it themselves. And so she has to face the reality that humanity is not this perfect specimen, these perfect, angels that she thought they were, and that they are responsible for their own undoing, and that it's not just one force that creates them and makes them fight. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the story, and that
That's one of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah, she had to.
When she kills who she thinks is Ares.
Yeah.
And she notices that the war is still going on, and she freaks the fuck out.
Yeah.
That's one of the best parts of the movie. And Chris Pine's showing up. He's like, "Look, I get it. All right, humans, we can suck sometimes, but there are good ones out there, and I got shit I need to do. You can either come help us, stop this shit, the gas from being launched, or you can just hang back, but I gotta go." And that was, it took her a while to...
And Ares even comes out and tells her, it doesn't take much to get them to fight. I just gave them the tools, and then they just went at it themselves. I'm not controlling them. Because she thought that he was literally controlling them.
Yeah, that was cool.
I enjoyed that. You had this...
That was different.
Yeah, you had this naive character that had to learn this harsh lesson about humanity, and she still chooses to love humanity despite their flaws. And I'm not a proponent of love conquers all, believe me. I hate that shit normally. But I thought the way this was handled, and I thought the way she accepted it, it wasn't so forced down your throat.
Yeah.
And I actually really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that aspect of the film very much, and I enjoy her as Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she did a good job.
I really do.
Like you were mentioning earlier, the whole fish out of the water thing. She was really good at that, being the fish out of the water. I mean, she brought her own charisma, but there were so many funny moments. The humor was good too.
Yeah.
In the film with her,
there was humor.
It was humor in a DCU film. What? So anyway, just for example, little things like this. When as soon as she arrives, as soon as her and Chris Pine get off the boat, as soon as she sets foot on soil, right? The first thing she says is, "Okay, take me to the war." That's it. She's here for business. I gotta stop Ares. I got a mission. You know, little things like this. Her trying to get through the the revolving door.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Her
She sees
her changing clothes so she can fit in, and she's still walking around with her shield and sword. Like
she sees London for the first time, and she's like, "It's hideous."
Yeah. So the humor did work. Chris Pine was great. He was hilarious.
They had pretty good chemistry.
They did have pretty good chemistry. And the team that was with him was fine. They could be looked at as throwaway characters, but they served their purposes. But the interesting thing was, I was so invested in the film, we were so invested in the movie, that even though you had this big, huge finale superhero brawl between Aries and Wonder Woman at the end, and I was enjoying that, still at the same time, I still was concerned and cared about what the little guys were doing. Was Chris Pine and his team, completing their mission. And that kind of shows for good storytelling, because you could easily be like, I don't give a shit about these guys. I just want to see, the light show. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, I enjoyed the superhero battle. Everybody hates it. I don't know why. So, I mean,
you gotta keep in mind with superhero battles.
Hold on. Yeah. So hold that thought. When Aries, when we had old man Aries, I was concerned. I was like, please just don't let Aries just be an old man.
Yeah.
This whole movie.
Yeah.
But when he started armoring up, and he started looks kind of more so like he looks in the comics and in his helmet and all this, I was like, yes, because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
I was hoping.
Yeah.
She would fight Aries, but I wasn't expecting it. And when they started beating the shit out of each other,
yeah.
And she goes straight Super Saiyan at that point and just fucks up all those soldiers, all Flash-like, and I was just like, yes, give me that shit. Give me the shit where she just throws the tank and takes out the sniper in the fucking tower and shit. I mean, that's when I was just like, yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing and I understand people not liking the way the superhero battles look because it's all CG.
Is that what it is? Well, visually, they don't like it?
And I can agree with it because,
it could be too much at some times.
But I understand that because I do not like CGI used completely, dependent on completely when it comes to making effects and all of that. But these are superhero characters.
Yes.
We had the same thing happen at the end of BVS.
With godlike powers.
You have to have CGI. You can't have Gal Gadot in a fucking harness being whipped around and doing all this crazy shit. A lot of things have to be CGI'd. And yes, I'm not a fan of it either, but when you consider what they're trying to portray, their options are very limited on what they can do in terms of portraying two godlike creatures going at it full force.
Even in Man of Steel, you're gonna have Superman versus Zod, and they destroy the fucking city. That has to be CGI. That's the only way you can pull it off.
Yeah, Batman went CGI at the end of BVS because of what Doomsday was doing. There were a lot of shots where Batman was full on CGI because of just the circumstances. He had to move around a lot and move from building to building to building, and that's just how it had to be.
Anyway, I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and the movie needed it. It needed a.
You know what I really enjoyed though also was the beginning of the film where she gets the original photo. Because in BVS she's given just a photo on the hard drive of her and the guys in World War One.
Right.
Well, Bruce Wayne finds the original copy and he sends it to her, and he says, "I hope one day you can tell me about this, or you can tell me about it." And I kind of like that dynamic that they're starting to form there. I hope that is kind of able to continue.
Yeah.
I think the fate of the DCEU, especially with the recent events in Justice League film, are in question. We really don't know where Justice League is going to go right now.
Fingers crossed.
For better or for worse.
I hope the Justice League movie's great.
I don't know what's going to happen.
Keep her theme.
And that's the thing. When Snyder was working on Justice League, I have no idea who was slated to do the score. And I know Danny Elfman has worked with other composers before. Like he co-composed Avengers: Age of Ultron, which was it was him and I want to say Brian Tyler who did Age of Ultron. Well, Alan Silvestri did the score for the first Avengers. Well, they used the Avengers theme, which was Alan Silvestri's theme.
Right.
So they Danny
at least kept the theme.
Danny Elfman is known to use other themes, and obviously this new composer for Wonder Woman kept the theme.
Right.
But I just don't see Danny Elfman keeping the Hans Zimmer and Junkie XL theme. We have 3 themes now that are potentially going to be lost. We have Batman's theme, Superman has his own theme,
Right.
and Wonder Woman has her own theme. Now, everybody else is open. Everybody else can have their own
Right.
theme. Like Aquaman, Flash, everybody can have their own theme.
So, I don't know if it's double confirmed, but the rumor going around is that Danny Elfman is going to be doing the score for Justice League, so that's why we're rambling about it. And if he does, how crazy is that Danny Elfman again is back to do another Batman theme,
That's the
which
thing.
will never be topped. The
And that's-
Batman Danny Elfman theme will never be
And that's
topped.
the thing. I love Danny Elfman's theme for the Tim Burton films,
Yeah.
but that era is over.
Yeah.
I hope that they can kind of stick with what we've already been established with,
Yeah.
because Batman has a really solid dark theme.
Right, from
In
BVS. Right.
Superman has an already well-established theme from Man of Steel and BVS. Although who knows how long Superman will be in Justice League whenever he shows up.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the Wonder Woman film? We pretty much covered everything.
I think I'm
It's
just
been a couple of weeks.
I'm so
since we've seen it.
I was very pleasantly surprised with what we
Yes.
ended up with.
Yes.
I almost had a Captain America moment where I had a character that I had no investment in, and now I am fully invested in this character and in her franchise, and I hope that they continue to do her justice. If she gets a sequel, I hope they can have the same tone.
Yeah.
You know, the fighting is pretty competent.
Sequel has been greenlit.
Yeah,
Same director coming back.
The fighting has been pretty competent. I hope we can see some more Amazons again, because they're...
During the Amazon beach attack in this movie, the female actress the whole time, her trainer, Diana's trainer, Wonder Woman's trainer, it was bothering me. I'm like, who is that? Like, why does that look familiar? And then when she's doing all this cool bow and arrow shit, I was like, oh shit, is that fucking Buttercup from Princess Bride? I was like, damn, Buttercup, badass. Anyway.
Who needs Wesley?
Yeah, who needs Wesley? Well, anyway, hopefully, fingers crossed for the sequel.
Yeah.
But would you put this on your top 10 best superhero films of all time, though? Even though you were very entertained with the film, is it on your top 10?
I don't know what my top 10 is right now. I would have to sit down and look at my top 10. I might have a top 20.
Right.
And I think she'd make it in the top 20.
Okay. I would have to say no. As much as I was entertained with this film, I look at the movie. What's going on with the camera there? What's happening? Oh, we're almost running out of time.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll speed it up. I would look at this movie as one of the best origin stories. That's how you have to look at this film. Don't compare it to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Don't compare it to, all that Civil War. Look at the film as an origin story. And it's definitely one of the better ones out there. So, very entertaining. We are going to give... Sorry, we got to hurry up. Camera's running out of battery. We're going to give Wonder Woman 4 out of 5 stars. All right? Let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. You guys rock. We'll see you next time. Wonder Woman!
Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe.